It's too early to tell how exactly the DCU will convey its larger overall narrative across several TV shows and movies, culminating in a gigantic team-up movie with all of the major players in a 6-year plan for the DC Universe. While the Justice League hasn't been formed yet, there seems to be a good amount of formed teams or groups of characters set to be getting their own projects in the near future, from the more popular teams to lesser-known characters from DC's catalog. You've got the Creature Commandos headed by Argus, the 11th Street Kids and Peacemaker, the Teen Titans getting their own live-action theatrical movie. We know the Green Lantern Corps is out and about. There's also the Authority, the Bat Family, as well as the unofficial moniker for the heroes that work under Maxwell Lord in the Superman movie, consisting of Guy Gardner Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific, with Guy Gardner referring to themselves as the Justice Gang. I'd like to go over a handful of teams I think should be seen in the DCU at some point, based on teams that are likely to appear, taking into account any teases or heavy speculation surrounding the involvement of a certain group, as well as a couple I'd personally like to see. The first team I'd like to mention that would be pitch perfect for the larger DCU world building and its canonical history is the Justice Society of America, the first ever superhero team in comics. This idea ties back to the existence of metahumans in this world and how long they've been around. We know that superpowered individuals have been public knowledge for a long time, but the only difference is that they're more of a problem currently.
So do you know in your head where like the age of superheroes began? Like, was there a Creature Commandos back in like World War II, the way there was in the comics, I believe?
Well, I don't know if there was a Creature Commandos back, but I do know there's been metahumans and superheroes for a long time, but as time has gone on, and I don't think this is giving away too much, there's more of them today than there used to be.
Okay.
And they're more of an issue today than they used to be. So this doesn't really have anything to do with Creature Commandos, but it is, kind of where we find ourselves.
Okay.
Getting the super. Okay.
According to James Gunn, humanity has been clued into the existence of metahumans for 300 years, so it wouldn't be that out of the ordinary to have a team of superheroes operating during World War II. We already have glimpses of World War II in the DCU continuity via the Creature Commandos episode centered on G.I. Robot's origins, a robot designed for combat that worked alongside Sergeant Rock and Easy Company. The Sergeant Rock movie is set during that time frame and features Sergeant Rock teaming up with Mademoiselle Marie to find the Spear of Destiny before the Nazis do, which is said to have supernatural elements. And I know many have been led to believe that the movie is cancelled, but that's not the case. As of right now, it's still on track to move forward. So there's already a bunch of supernatural activity going around during this time frame of the DCU, which I think would call for the JSA to be formed to combat the opposing forces. I think it'd be really cool to have it be like the comics where they're the first generation of costumed crime fighters at the forefront, inspiring future generations of heroes and paving the way for heroes like Batman and Superman to step into the spotlight, to further flesh out the DCU's history. There are very few adaptations of the JSA, thus not a lot of people know of the roster and their significance in the wider universe. Sure, they had a presence in the Black Adam movie, but I'd like to see a more faithful rendition of the team with Jay Garrick Flash, Hourman, Wildcat, Alan Scott Green Lantern, Dr. Midnight, those guys. Since post-Crisis, DC would establish the original version having been a thing in the 40s and a revamped version seen in the modern day, newer iterations having a blend of old and new members. Another team that would fit well in the landscape of the DCU is the Terrifics. Some speculation has led people to believe that this could be the next project James Gunn is currently writing.
Well, okay, terrific.
A while back, Gunn confirmed that the next movie he's writing isn't an exact sequel to Superman, but it's connected. Many people believe this to be a world's finest movie that depicts the DCU's Batman and Superman interacting for the first time in a meaningful way. While that would be cool and I would like to see that at some point, his next project could also be a movie centered on Mr. Terrific or the Terrifics team. Having a movie that continues the expansion of corporate heroes under Maxwell Lord, or a movie centered on Mr. Terrific, would by default connect to the Superman movie in some way, shape, or form. The hero Gunn is most excited for audiences to see in the Superman movie, other than Superman himself, is Mr. Terrific, as he's the main character out of the roster of supporting heroes, having a big part in the plot. Gunn has also teased the Terrifics as far back as early 2023, where he shared the cover of the Terrifics issue 25. Eddie Gathegi confirmed that his character is set to appear in another project. The Terrifics is more of a recent concept compared to other notable groups, with the team first appearing in the Terrifics issue 1 in 2018, created by Jeff Lemire. The team consists of Mr. Terrific, Plastic Man, Metamorpho, and Phantom Girl, and half of the roster already have roles to play in the Superman movie. In the comic, Simon Stagg tries to open a door to the dark multiverse using stolen Terrific tech and Metamorpho as a conduit. Metamorpho, Mr. Terrific, and Plastic Man all end up getting sucked into the dark multiverse portal, where they encounter Phantom Girl in an attempt to find a way out. Afterwards, they come to realize that their time sort of binded them so that they can't separate a mile from each other or else they'll explode in flashing dark energy. So they essentially become a team to travel the dark multiverse to find a cure for their current situation and find out more about the contents of the multiverse as well. While I highly doubt the Terrifics would explore the dark multiverse, or the multiverse in general for that matter in the DCU, it's likely they could explore any pocket dimensions that have been established. James Gunn confirmed that more of the quantum unfolding chamber technology seen in Peacemaker Season 1 would have a presence in Superman and serve as the center of the story in Peacemaker Season 2. For those unaware or don't remember, the quantum unfolding storage area was an extra dimensional room that housed a lot of Peacemaker's gear.
How is it so big in this place?
It's a quantum unfolding storage area. It leads to a dimensional nodule outside normal space.
This has caused a lot of speculation about the Superman movie and Peacemaker Season 2 involving pocket dimensions, which would explain why you see two different Peacemakers at the end of the Season 2 teaser trailer, rather than the common theory of the DCEU Peacemaker crossing over into the DCU or something. Since Mr. Terrific will play a major role in Superman, it's very likely he'd be in the know about pocket dimension technology, which would compel him to possibly explore it further with other heroes down the road, or forcefully face it head on for some other reason. Maybe that's where monsters like the kaiju come from. A team that perfectly encapsulates the magic side of the DC universe and the characters at play in that realm of fantasy is Justice League Dark. This team first appeared in their own comic series as a part of the lineup of books that would jumpstart the New 52, comprised of characters made to deal with supernatural anomalies and threats normal heroes can't. The initial roster had Madame Xanadu bring together John Constantine, Zatanna, Deadman, and Shade the Changing Man to try and stop the Enchantress after she was separated from June Moon. Afterwards, Madame Xanadu predicted a terrible future that would come to pass unless these specific heroes banded together. If there are any plans to incorporate the Justice League Dark, it probably won't come into fruition anytime soon, but you can at least see a couple of seeds planted for an eventual team up or for exploring the mystic elements of the universe. Swamp Thing is set to be getting a dark horror movie written by James Mangold, centered on the character's origins that would feed into the rest of the stories in the DCU. There have also been rumors from reliable sources of a possible Deadman animated series in early development. I know there were talks of a Constantine 2 movie happening, a direct sequel to the Keanu Reeves movie that came out in 2005, but I'm kinda casting my doubts on that ever happening, and I would much rather prefer to see the character more in line with the comics in the DCU rather than in an Elseworlds project. It also doesn't hurt that James Gunn seems to be a pretty big fan of the character.
Constantine I'm actually a pretty huge fan of. I read every Hellblazer comic as it was coming out. He's a great character. I like that approach to magic where it wasn't so overwhelming and too powerful.
Justice League Dark has had only one adaptation via the animated movie set in the DC AMU, which featured Batman teaming up with a few members from the New 52 lineup, as well as Etrigan and Swamp Thing. But if you had to incorporate a member from the main Justice League lineup in any future adaptation, it'd make more sense to use Wonder Woman, considering she has more ties to magic, and the fact that she led the second incarnation of the team, which initially consisted of Zatanna, Detective Chimp, Man-Bat, and Swamp Thing. The next team that's likely to make an appearance down the pipeline in the DCU is the Metal Men. Reason I say this is because they've already been teased in the same Creature Commandos episode that featured Sergeant Rock, where we see what happened to G.I. Robot over the years leading up to the events of the show. 20 years after the end of World War II, G.I. would end up in the hands of Dr. William Magnus to aid him in his studies on AI systems and automatons, which will lead to the creation of the Metal Men, since Will Magnus is the creator of that team in the source material.
Which was my favorite group when I was a child. I think that we're being able to set up that, Dr. Magnus was definitely inspired and learned something from the automaton that is G.I. Robot that leads him to creating the Metal Men down the road. And we see the beginnings of those designs on the wall, which is a really fun moment for me to bring into it.
And whatever Jimmy wants is more than likely to happen, so it wouldn't be all that surprising if the Metal Men get their own animated movie or something. They're essentially a team of sentient metal robot superheroes that each have a distinct personality and are made out of specific elements, while also having the ability to shapeshift. The 6 robots include gold, iron, lead, Platinum, Mercury, and Tin, first appearing in Showcase issue 37 in April 1962, so a byproduct of the Silver Age of DC Comics. The final team I'd like to mention that'd be a good fit, a bit different from the other teams brought up as this is more on the devious side, is a Legion of Doom or Injustice League kind of lineup to face against the Justice League. I think it'd be really cool to set up villains over a multitude of projects to have them team up in an effort to take down the heroes after they realize they'd be more effective in numbers. Maybe Lex manifests a profound hatred for other metahuman superheroes outside of just Superman, so he gets the idea to form his own team of villains down the road after seeing the effectiveness of the Justice Gang or any other teams that'll pop up. There hasn't really been an attempt by Marvel or DC that has actually come to fruition in a live action movie to feature a team of big name villains teaming up to fight the flagship heroes of their respective universes. The theatrical cut of Justice League tried to tease this in a post-credit scene with Lex Luthor and Deathstroke, but obviously that went nowhere. And let's be honest, considering the tomfoolery that was going on with Warner Brothers at the time, the Legion of Doom probably would have sucked in that universe. So far, you already have a bunch of big name villains teased or set to appear in the first handful of projects in the DCU. We know Gorilla Grodd exists, thanks to the Future Vision and Creature Commandos, the same show that also brought us Cersei. Lex Luthor is the main villain in Superman, Sinestro is set to appear in the Lanterns TV show. The seeds would have already been planted if they plan to go that route of a Legion of Doom kind of lineup. Those are just a handful of groups that I think have somewhat of a chance in making an appearance in the DCU based on what little info we know and how it could tie into the overall vision for world building. It's not a guarantee that even a couple of these picks, if any, will show up at all, but it does make for some fun speculation. It's highly unlikely they'll have every single team fans want to see, as you don't want to run into the problem of overstuffing the universe with characters, but I'm more than confident that DC Studios has a plan for fleshing out the mythos properly.